What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another podcast here, live with Staple Gun, a.k.a. Justin. What's going on, man?
What's up?
Not much. This is, for those that don't know, this is our music review podcast, so the mRNA podcast. Thanks for joining us, everyone in chat or listening on podcast platforms back somewhere, wherever it may be. Let us know where you found us. But glad to be back, man. Who suggested this album?
I think this was you.
This was my suggestion. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy with this suggestion. But how happy am I? There's kind of a spoiler right there. But how happy am I? We're going to deep dive into the latest album by, if you haven't seen yet, we have special guests on our couch. 21 Pilots is here. We need like a clip thing where I can go to like an audience, like a GIF of an audience with the sound effect of clapping. I'm working on that for the next one. Just wait, because
if it's a GIF, it'll have no sound, so maybe something better.
Well, I can add a sound effect to the clip, so we'll make it work. There is a Strand Redemption if you want to cheer for us, though. But we're here with 21 Pilots. We're reviewing Scaled and Icy, which I thought was an odd name, but we're going to find out a little bit more about that during tonight's show as well. So yes, I did suggest this. I have been a fan of this band for about 8 years now, to be honest with you. The major label debut is when I came across them. The big single back in 2013 off Vessel, Holding On To You. I'm sure many of you have heard that song. I believe around that time, that album, the follow-up Blurry Face, was their most critical, or not critical, but critically acclaimed success. Commercial success was what I was looking for as far as describing it. How could you not hear this song? If you listen to alternative radio, you would have heard their singles around that time. I was fortunate enough to also be interning at 89X and The Riff, so I heard a lot of music back then, specifically up-and-coming artists like this. What about you? I know we're just kind of giving a brief on the background here.
So for me, I mean, honestly, it was probably later on, probably around Blurry Face time. Those songs were played to death on the radio, but it got me looking into their earlier stuff. And then Vessel is definitely by far the best in their catalog from me. Maybe it's the new one, maybe it's that one, as far as including the current one. But I love that album. There's so many songs and singles that I don't see listed as singles that I would consider singles. That's how complete that album was for me. But yeah, I've been into them for a while. Just got sick of them in 2015 with the radio stuff. But
yeah, understandably so. You would say it was played too much on the car radio?
Oh yeah, definitely just radio stations everywhere.
There's a forced little pun there for fans. You're welcome. I know. He doesn't appreciate my humor, ever. Like, just stone-faced. Never appreciates it. It takes a lot to make that man smile, I swear. Your wife, man, she does a hell of a job. I've seen you smile. It is possible.
No pities.
I tried. So yeah, completely understandable. As we've mentioned before on previous reviews, the radio can help and hurt bands. The most notable one I always bring up is Hoobastank with The Reason. My God, went from amazing to please stop. And they did. And the reason was you. So Vessel back in 2013, as we talked about their first major label success, they actually had 2 albums prior to that. I had never heard of the band before. I went back and listened to that stuff, and I actually found out through a little bit of research, the band was originally a 4-piece. They're now a 2-piece, as we can see on our couch here. And the drummer is not an original member of the band. He came in around the time just before Vessel. And, I mean, the rest is history, right? These two work wonders together. And they've recorded 6 amazing albums. The new one, the 6th one, Scaled and Icy, together. They haven't all been perfect, though. And we're going to talk about Scaled and Icy today. That's, again, the topic of the show. I'm going to give a little bit of background, and then I know you have quite a bit of stuff you want to share, too. Yep. So with Vessel, it debuted in 2013, became the 2nd album in history on which every track received at least a gold certification, making 21 Pilots the first band in the history of music to see every song on 2 albums earn gold or platinum awards. That's incredible, and honestly well-deserved for this time in their music library. The duo achieved breakthrough success with their 4th album, Blurry Face, in 2015, which produced the successful singles of Stressed Out and Ride and became the first album in the history. Every track received at least a gold from the Recording Industry of America. The release of the single Heathens, which if you guys have seen the Suicide Squad film, have you seen that film?
I have not.
Oh,
but
interesting. I have a task for you then, because I really recommend that movie. A lot of people hate on it, but that's not why we're here. But speaking on that, Heathens was the big song to be featured in that movie, even though I don't believe it was played until the credit roll of the film. I could be wrong. But man, you want to talk about a song that was played out. That song was in rotation, I swear, every 90 minutes on the radio.
Yeah.
And it was an okay song. Like, I really enjoyed it, but then it was just like, all right. It's a bit much.
For sure.
Continuing on, Heathens also made the group the first alternative artist in the history to have 2 concurrent top 5 singles on the Billboard Hot 100, and the 3rd rock act in history to have 2 singles simultaneously chart in the top 5 of the Billboard Hot 100, joining the Beatles and Elvis. That right there, we're talking the Beatles, we're talking Elvis, and then 21 Pilots.
Yeah.
One of these is not like the others, but worthy. The duo's 5th album, Trench, was released October 5th, 2018, and then their 6th one was released May 21st, 2021. For me, Trench is where I kind of fell away from this band, to be honest with you. So I started losing a lot of my interest with them.
Yeah, I can see more storytelling. It's more bizarre than their previous stuff, I would say.
And see, I didn't even know about the storytelling stuff until we started talking about how we were doing this, which you have a lot to offer on it. And I did not even a deep dive. I'm going to call it a surface level. Very surface level stuff is what I discovered. More so relating to the particular album we're talking about tonight.
Okay.
But with that, Scaled and Icy, the 6th studio album, 21 Pilots, again, May 21st, fueled by Ramen, Elektra. Should I give away something here with the album title is based on? Or do you want to?
Go for it.
So what I found out, the album title is based on a play scaled back and isolated, a phrase frontman Tyler associated with music produced during the pandemic that we've been going through. Though the phrase is also an anagram, which you pointed out for me, I had no clue, and I don't know where you discovered it, but I have that in my notes here, that the anagram is Clancy is dead, which then you enlighten me there's a big story background for a lot of this stuff. And it's a reference to the protagonist of their previous album, Trench, which you mentioned, storytelling stuff. Which, in all honesty, like, if I would have known that, I probably would have dove deeper into that album. Because we've talked about this before. I'm a music first guy and then lyrics. Whereas my wife is very much lyrics is a make or break deal with the music she listens to. I wish I would have known this because maybe I would have appreciated the work much more. I should have, based on their previous stuff and how deep his lyrics actually are. But I didn't know. But I'm glad I know now through talking. So I'm going to kick it over to you.
All right. Yeah. So you kind of touched on everything. I do have one other unique statistic about the Blurryface album. So that was actually their album was on the top 200 for Billboard for 4 years straight. Band has ever done that before.
That's incredible.
Yes. So from 2015 to 2019, 4 years straight, Blurryface, even with the release of Trench in 2018, Blurryface still stayed in the top 200. So another unique thing that can be attributed towards this duo.
And it's just two guys.
Yep.
That's incredible. The creativity.
Yeah. Speaking of creativity, so the lore is pretty interesting with this band. Basically, I don't have the full rundown of everything that's going on, but just to kind of touch on things, in 2017, they kind of announced a hiatus, and then they sent some cryptic messages that fans were decoding and going to different websites and finding these letters from a person named Clancy, which we've referenced already, who's kind of talking about this DEMA society, this group of people. There's a whole like map and you can reference as far as this kind of alternate reality or alternate world where kind of the members of the band are being held captive. So it's really bizarre stuff. There's apparently 9 bishops. And if you look at some of the pictures and things that they've released, if you look at the Blurryface album, there's 9 circles for the album cover, which represents one of the bishops. And if you go into some of the lyrics and the songs, it actually names the bishops that are in all of those songs from the Blurryface album. So there's actually a reference to each name of the bishop in these different songs. So it's really, really bizarre stuff. And even without you knowing this stuff, going back to, I think we touched on it before when we talked about doing this album, they released a Christmas song recently, and it was kind of mediocre. I didn't really care for it. It was okay. But in some of the promotional material they put out there, there's a picture of them as kids, and there's a Christmas present in the background, and there's a Christmas present to Clancy, this person that keeps coming up and over again. And then in there's some stuff basically saying that that this Scaled and Icy album is going to be considered propaganda. So the assumption at surface level is that this album is being released with them being under control of somebody else, which is why it's got kind of more of a positive, upbeat thing to it compared to some of their previous albums. There's a whole, like I said, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here where basically they've kind of put a ton of material out there. It reminds me very much of the TV show Lost. Mm-hmm. So I was really big into that when I was growing up, and when I was in my 19, 20, 21, kind of in that range, and go looking at, what does this book mean? What does this book mean? How does that reference the overall plot and the characters? They're basically doing that with this storytelling that they're doing between these albums. So again, it's really bizarre stuff. There are plenty of YouTube videos out there talking about what each song means at surface level, and if there's a deeper meaning to the song based on this story that they've put together for their fans that follow it more deeply. If you notice, like on Spotify and in all of their materials, they've put out stuff basically showing a new 21 Pilots logo, which is like a sigh, like, Raphael kind of sigh thing. Mm-hmm. That's basically sigh for Scaled and Icy. So just, again, all kinds of lore out there. Feel free to go head first into the YouTube wormhole. There you're going to find a ton of stuff. But it makes another kind of fascinating layer to all of their music. And when I went back and listened to Trench throughout this, you kind of start to put some things together and go, oh, maybe this is what was going on when this song was quote unquote written. So pretty interesting stuff.
I mean, as if songwriting and creativity isn't already challenging enough, you add well thought out and planned content like this, potentially for years to come. That's mind blowing. Like the depth and having an understanding like that of stuff. Well deserved their accolades, knowing even that little bit.
And even like when they took their hiatus, they didn't show up for a while. They went to accept an award, and basically he said, sorry Tyler couldn't be here. He's severing ties with DEMA, which is, again, this alternate society where they're supposed to be, living in, where these bishops control them and have them captive. And then again, silent, and they get these cryptic messages and people are trying to decipher stuff. So it makes an interesting experience for their diehard fans, that's for sure.
Definitely. I want to give a shout out for the people that popped in for chat so far. Trevor, Lana, Ty, Batman. Batman did a 100-bit donation. Hip hip hooray. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. But man, I'm excited to dive into each track now and what you found and what I found based on what you've shared. Because a lot of this makes more sense now. So, because again, I brushed the surface level. Maybe you'll have more to each track to add to this. What else do you have, I guess, before we continue on?
That's about it. It's just, again, that's just barely touching on everything that's going on with their albums. It almost kind of seems like in 2017 they started kind of exploring this and kind of tying it back to the Blurry Face album, and again tying back to that Lost thing as well. Like they had the Dharma Initiative, and they were trying to figure out who these bad guys are, and this is the DEMA Society, which is supposed to be like their inner demons. But even if you look at the maps and stuff that they've created for DEMA, it seems very Dharma like. If you're a fan of Lost, you understand that. So it's just kind of cool to see that they've done this stuff and kind of tied it in to all their music. And for people who just listen to their stuff on the radio, they like the song because they like the beats, or they like that it's radio friendly, and go with it. And like you said, kind of, I've never seen really a band like this as far as their previous albums, where they've released so many singles off of each album that have just hit on the radio, or that have just been released over the course of a year or two. When they put out a new album, normally you get one or two, maybe 3 singles off of an album if you're lucky, and they're putting out 5, 6, 7 off of each album. So it's just a really interesting band.
Yeah, they're definitely one of a kind, and I'm super thankful I discovered them. I had the privilege, and I think you're aware of this, but I had the privilege back in 2013 when Fall Out Boy returned to the music scene. They went on tour with Panic at the Disco and the opening act for the tours, and this was at the Pistons. What was that called in Detroit before they demolished it? Drawing a blank. You know where the Pistons used to play? The
Silverdome?
No, that was Lions.
Yeah, no. The Auburn Palace? The
Palace, thank you. Yeah, the Palace is gone now.
They just moved.
Is it demolished? Yeah, it's gone. They demolished it. It's gone. It was like late last year, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
But I had the privilege of seeing them there at that, and 21 Pilots played 5 songs as the opening act, and
oh yeah,
incredible. And the crowd was super into it, and I was thinking at that point, I'm like, these guys are going to go somewhere. And they did. Like they're a very special act. And Cody, yes, you didn't say hi, so I didn't shout you out. I'm sorry, Cody. I was just flying through the chat. Hi to Cody. There you go. Acknowledge him, right? Isn't that what they say in wrestling? So let us start our breakdown of these 11 tracks that clock in around 38 minutes on the 6th album by 21 Pilots here. Would you like the honor and the privilege of kicking things off, or would you like me to?
Sure. Do we want to make predictions?
Oh, good call. I'm glad you mentioned that. So we do have a tradition. We try to predict the score out of 10 solid number, full number only, on what we think the other will score it. We're not going to reveal our score until the very end to you guys, and we don't even know each other's score. But I'll predict yours, and then you can predict mine. I'll show you yours if you show me mine. And that didn't make sense. And then you can kick things off with the first track. So I think, based on what you've shared so far, and based on you mentioning you really enjoyed Vessel as far as their content, I think you're going to give this an 8 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, based on what you've told me and that you've been a fan of them for a while, you kind of lost interest, what you said with Vessel, and this is definitely a departure from that. So
from Trenches.
Sorry, yep. Yeah, you kind of lost interest there, and I feel like they got you back. So I feel like a solid 8 for you as well.
All right, let's start our breakdown with track 1.
All right. So first song is Good Day, 3 minutes and 24 seconds. This one, honestly, when it starts off, it kind of sounds like a Beatles classic rock kind of feel to it. It's got birds chirping and nature sounds in the background. It's a very odd way to kick off the album for them. When you think of like Ode to Sleep from Vessel, it's totally different. Started upbeat piano, started the song, and honestly, it sounds like something that you would hear at the start of like a comedy movie. This is what I was thinking. I was thinking this is going to be easily the background track of some sort of movie that comes out. I can just pretty much guarantee it. Kind of switches into a like reggae type of beat and adds some horns building up to the end of the song. Sounds like basically, despite the isolation and bad things that are kind of happening, you know, it's a good day. They're kind of reminds me of Float On from Modest Mouse, which we're going to be covering later, I believe.
I was going to say that's our next one. Spoiler.
I really like the song. I thought it was very different. It kind of reminded me of when Panic at the Disco did a little bit of weird stuff there with their second or third album, whichever one that was. But no, I thought it was a great, surprising way to start off the album.
Yeah, I agree. It was a good day. It was a good day to listen to this album. Any day is a good day to listen to this album, especially kicking off with this track. My notes have chill intro with birds chirping, so I did pick that up. I mean, how can you not pick that up? It's they ease you in to the album. It's very relaxing, and for me, it was like kind of waking up and being isolated at home. You're not hearing the sounds of the busy city because no one's in the city. You're hearing the birds chirping. You're just your surroundings, wherever you are, you're waking up. So it's just kind of this chill. Not much is happening. So that's immediately the vibe that I got thrust upon with this. The piano intro, I said it reminds me of something 60s era, the Beatles. I also noted that, so I was picking up on notes of that. Speaking of a little bit of research I did, they are definitely inspired by the Beatles. Is one of the singer's first things that he used to play along with on piano and various things growing up. They grew up very religious, so it was an act that probably was more welcoming as far as music in their home, at least some period of Beatles, because I don't know if all Beatles would have been welcoming in the home.
Probably not.
But, you know, I don't know. I wasn't around back then and I didn't grow up in a religious family, so who knows? I said upbeat, happy feel to the music with a sing-along chorus hook, a return to their upbeat style of Vessel and before. It's a great opening track with synth, piano, and nature sounds with a happy feel. I said maybe lyrically somewhat sarcastic, but also trying to have a positive spin on the negatives happening. And I say sarcastic because I know the history, as you mentioned, with their lyrical content.
Right.
Because it's such a change in character. But maybe because of what you've pointed out, earlier. So that's why I noted that specifically because possible sarcasm. The song, from my understanding, is based on a thought experiment Tyler had where he wondered how he'd react if he suddenly lost everyone he held dear to him. An example he noted here, I found some notes on this, his wife and daughter. His reaction here is one of shock and denial, the first stage of grief, basically. And there's a part where he sings out, "It's a good day despite what has occurred." So
yep.
It's a good opener. It really sets the tone for the album, and with And when I don't know how you listen to the album. Do you listen to it front to back from track one to the end?
Yeah.
Okay, that's how I listen to albums too. Maybe that's just the vintage music lover in me back when you had tapes or even CDs. You can skip ahead, tapes you could fast forward. But I when I get an album, I listen to it front to back. That was just always how I do it. And then I'll jump around after that and pick the songs that I want to play. But it sets the tone of things to come that we didn't know yet, but it really sets the tone. It's a good track. And what's up, Rated? Shout out. Welcome to the show. I guess I'll continue on. Track 2 then, unless we wanted to add more. Track 2 is called Choker. This is actually the second single that was released from the album. A definite single-worthy track, chill hip-hop inspired beats, and more piano with a clever sing-along hook for the chorus. So if you wanted to describe them and if they had a specific sound, they have it in this track. This is what you pretty much know 21 Pilots for, at least their radio hits, with a hip-hop influence and just a hook for the chorus that you want to sing along to and you'll remember. Straightforward song that only deviates from the established flow to a halftime break during the bridge and the exit chorus, into his signature hip-hop lyric flow from Vessel, onward. I believe he did a lot of that stuff too before, but he really got into that with Vessel. Lyrically, a song about gaining confidence or the lack of and overcoming these types of feelings. Noted here as the song progresses, the narrator of the song, if you will, experiences growth in character, and he ends on a positive note again. So again, this positivity thing that they're establishing, just contrasting to everything else, where he begins to look at future with a hopeful attitude. And really, it's a good overall single. I see why they chose this as the single. The only thing lacking so far at this point of the album is energy. I want more energy because they've had that in the past. This is very chill so far at this point. I know we're 2 tracks in, but we've had a chill track and then a chill track. So
yeah,
I just asked for more energy is what I would ask for in some of this stuff. Even if it's a brief moment of it, just give it just a little bit more because they have it. They've done it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. The intro to this song with kind of the percussion, at least the intro sounds like, I don't know if you've heard of it before. It's called Triple J Like a Version. So it's I believe they're out of Australia, or I'm going to get that terribly wrong. But anyway, they're like a radio station, but they have these huge artists like Childish Gambino and all these major artists come out and they do cover songs of other bands that are just completely different than what they would do. But anyway, so that intro, if you've never heard of Triple J's Like a Version before, check it out. Some really cool covers by a lot of bands that you'll like.
Let me ask you this real quick before you go in. Covers, before we continue. Have you heard 21 Pilots cover of My Chemical Romance? I believe it was Cancer.
Cancer, yes.
It's a good cover.
It is. It's already kind of a sad song, and they kind of found a way to
make it sadder.
Yes. But yeah, if you like good covers, definitely check out that YouTube channel. They got some really cool stuff. But yeah, so they noticed the song, like you said, as far as the style of it, the lyrics, they kind of reference shadows and lights, just kind of like in semi-automatic from their first album, or from Vessel, their first album, their first one on Fueled by Ramen. Their lyrics sound like they're kind of leaving a darker place and one leaning towards one that's more positive. I agree as far as the energy. I get why they chose it as a single. It's not one of my favorites off of the album, just because it is kind of their kind of formula. Like you would expect this kind of song from them. So I liked it. And I know the lead singer has kind of dealt with depression in the past, and he seems to be kind of moving away from it. So lyrically, it speaks to that. But is it actually that they're moving away from that, or is it the lore? Is there actually, are they being forced to make this music because they're under control of the bishops? There's a whole thing to that. But overall, solid song, but nothing that blew me away.
Yeah, definitely fair. Again, yeah, I see why they chose it as a single, though, compared to some of the other songs. So,
Yeah.
Speaking of singles, what's our next one?
Next one is another single. Shy Away at 2 minutes and 54 seconds. So this one is very fast and upbeat. It kind of starts off with a 80s song with synthy sounds repeating. Kind of reminded me of, it doesn't surprise me they put it out on the radio with The Weeknd kind of putting out stuff where it sounds very 80s. Seems to be kind of the theme lately with new content coming out. It's one of the faster songs on the album, and it kind of leads off from the last song saying, shed your modesty and leave your skin on the floor. Don't hold back. Kind of go for it. Go for your goals and find yourself. So with the kind of background with this one, I'm sure you probably got the same information where his brother was wanting to learn his songwriting process, and that's what inspired the song, is he was trying to get his brother to not shy away and, go for it, kind of do your thing, present yourself. He's trying to help him find himself and develop. And that's kind of what inspired the song. But overall, I like this a lot more than Choker as far as a single, just because of the beat. And overall, it's just, I think, just a better song from them. But that's what I've got for Shy Away.
So yeah, Shy Away, the first single off this album, released it sometime last year during the pandemic. A decent music video is available for it as well. As you can see on our couch here, they have somewhat of a different look, to them from their signature look from, obviously, people know from Blurry Face with the, what do you call it? I don't want to say robber masks, but the that's generally what they're known as. Say it again.
Ski mask? Yeah.
Ski mask. Yes, that's probably the proper way to describe that, what it actually is. But, here we are.
Yeah. It's more of a dark. This is definitely a lighter.
Yeah. So, as you said, pastel colors, very 80s, very upbeat. Like, they're really trying to stay with the trend, which is actually something we're going to speak on in a little bit on this album, too, for one of the tracks specifically. But, yes, they're I don't want to say instead of being trendsetters, they're sticking with the trend, but that kind of is what's happening with this particular song anyways. Definite standout single for the album. It exemplifies their style and a return to their signature sound that people probably know them as. Establishes a beat and hook within the first moments. Great rotation, variation of the actual chorus with emotion building each time it returns. Showing that it's not copy-paste. If you'll notice, a lot of people with their song structure for pop, radio-friendly stuff, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. Like, it's very cookie cutter formula. That's just kind of what people are. We got a raid going. Everyone get hyped for the raid. Bring the madness. I'm gonna do that. What's up, MX? Everyone get hyped for the raid. Thanks, MX, for raiding us. He's just coming off his season 2 premiere of his show, so congrats on that. That was so loud. It's to get hype, Andrew. It's to get hype. Are you hype now? I hope you're hype. Don't you shy away. Anyways, what I was saying about song structure before we had this incredible raid, a lot of songs have copy paste. And what I mean by that is the chorus is the same every time. You can tell they literally, and dropping bombs on us, 1,000-bit donation from MX. Hip hip hooray, think of that. It scared Lana. The raid scared Lana. Well, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one getting scared on this show now. Cody.
Don't you shy away.
21 Pilots.
Don't you shy away. So there we have the alert to everyone's getting hyped tonight. You guys, I'm so excited that you're excited because we're excited together. We're here in this moment. So guys, don't shy away. Stick around. Let's talk about this album some more. What I mean with the chorus, it builds every time. You can tell that they recorded each chorus uniquely because he sings it with a little more emotion with each return to it. I don't know if you noticed that. It's something that stood out for me.
Yeah, a little bit of screaming towards the end, as far as
which I love.
The extreme, which is great. I mean,
I love it.
That 21 Pilots, I love.
Yeah, I love it. I love screaming. So lyrically, as you mentioned, to talk about being an older brother and how only tougher than trying to figure out what your own purpose is what I grasped from it. Also watching someone you love trying to figure out their purpose. So fun fact on that, his little brother actually released I don't know if it was an album or music about a month prior to this. So throughout the pandemic, they worked together on that, and they actually ended up releasing content. I haven't listened to it. I don't know what it's like, but I'm intrigued now to go check that out. It could be a similar style. It could be something completely different. Who knows? Because brothers sometimes have similar things. Sometimes they're just complete strangers in the creativity level. So who knows? But that exists. So as you mentioned, it's based on a conversation that he had with his brother, walking through the creative process for writing a song. Eventually, it turned into a letter of advice, encouraging to pursue his dreams in the music industry. So what you described is what I had in my notes as well. Great song. You guys heard in the alert is the first single leading off this album. And honestly, like, fantastic. I didn't love it at first, but I think I love it now. Like, it's a fun song. So
Yeah, it's up there.
Me carrying the next one, or is it you? Is it back to you, or is it?
Yeah, it's back to me.
Okay.
So the next track we got is called The Outside. 3 minutes and 36 seconds. So this one, it starts off with a really funky beat, which is unusual for them. Even the guitars have kind of a funk sound to them. Lyrically, it's extremely catchy and almost kind of seems like a mockery of the music industry, kind of just, nod your head to this song. Nice rap verse in the middle of the song saying he's on the outside from what others are doing. People try to kind of copy their style, but they're just doing their own thing. So again, this seems like another transition from, Choker to Shy Away to now The Outside. It seems like they're kind of leading towards that, here's what we're doing. We're just here to have fun. This is going to be our poppy, upbeat, funky reggae kind of album, and just deal with it. This is what we're doing. Just don't mess with me. But I'm vibing to this song. It's really good. This is definitely the top track of the album for me.
Wow. I mean, you're not wrong, but
it's bizarre for them, but I really enjoyed it.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it. It's up there. I don't know if I would label this as my top, but it's up there. I really like Shy Away, but this one is really good.
Yeah.
So definitely, I have my notes, very hip hop influence heavy here with an almost 80s inspired feel to it again. The sound, and I can't emphasize this enough because one of the compliments, and this has stuck with me to this day, and I hold that near and dear to my heart. It was one random person drunk at a bar after a show, but sometimes you never know what nice words, how far they can take, someone. I played in a band of 3 people, one of them being Rob from the movie review podcast that we do here, and then a guy named Ben, which obviously you know him, Justin, but for those that don't, us 3 had a band for a couple of years, and individual said it's impressive what sound can come out of 3 people. So I'm going to pay that compliment forward to the extreme. It's amazing what sound can come out of 2 people.
Yeah.
Incredible stuff here. And it's instrument sounds. It's not like, I know stuff is processed today and overly processed in studio, but again, I've heard them live. I know what they can recreate. And I know what instruments are recorded live. The fact that they can create and write content as a 2-piece in what they do is incredible. I can't emphasize that enough. So as I mentioned, with the drums, synth, piano here, it's incredible. Summer vibes in this song for something to listen to while you drive with this track. Very cruising, friendly song. Lyrically, the only thing I felt was questioning in this was them asking, do they still got it? And this is what I said a little bit ago regarding the music industry and being trendsetters, fitting in or not fitting in. This song asks that very question. The Outside expresses the frontman's criticisms towards the music industry as a whole. He talks about the commentary on the monotony of the mainstream music in general and his reservations from what is considered mainstream, and which will replace them as an act. Like, where will we continue to progress for our music tastes? So there's criticisms, concerns, and as a creative, I mean, that's the hardest thing you can do as a creative, to put out content that you're passionate for and you still have that heart and you give everything, but then people just chew it up and spit it out because it's not new anymore. It's not, the next is not the next best thing. And it's stale, right?
Mm-hmm.
Entertainment, this podcast, the shows I do on Twitch for NAW, the longer you go with these things, the more stale they become to people. It's not fresh and new and exciting. And I think they're at that point in their careers where they're concerned. They're hoping they have an apex, right? But in actuality, their numbers, their record sales are showing they possibly have. They could make a comeback. Many bands have, gone on decades, ups and downs and ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
But I get their concern here, and they write that in this song. So they use a variety of metaphors in this one. The examples they use is Megalodon and Megatron in the lyrics to express a sense that the band was once a leader in their music due to success during the Blurryface era, which we mentioned. Many of their songs topping the charts, but now the time has passed, and the Megalodon faces extinction, as well as Megatron watching the cogs he once stepped on rising up. So the outside, this track expresses the inevitability of how the music industry moves on from one artist to the next, and highlights the singer's bitterness towards the industry and how it prioritizes non-controversial, non-challenging music. I mean, that's a bold statement that he makes, and this is stuff I looked up on it from them describing what this track means, and he's not wrong, I don't feel, as far as my take on the music industry. I've been consuming music as of you. We've talked music for a long time as friends, which led us to this show. And I don't feel he's wrong in any way in his thoughts here.
No, I agree with you. And that's why I think, kind of feels like he's on the outside now, but also kind of mocking the industry in a way that he's just saying, literally saying, nod your head. And it's the easiest song to rock out to on the album because with the easiest instructions. It's literally just saying, nod your head. It's got a great beat. It's just here to say, hey, this could be on the radio. We're kind of making a mockery of the music industry, but I would not be surprised if this gets picked up as a single to be put on the radio despite its lyrics.
Pork and beans.
Yeah.
Like, this is we talked about that too. It's a similar thing. And it's like, man, your dream is to put out music and have as many people as you can listen to it. But how crushing is it for these corporations? Like, man, it's a blessing and a curse, I guess, to be famous.
Right.
But geez. Shall I continue to the next?
Go ahead.
You know what I can't wait for? I can't wait for Saturday, which is their next song and the third single, their latest single as of our recording of this episode off the album. Immediately, it goes right into some funk guitar work, which we talked about. He did learn guitar throughout the pandemic. For those that don't know, he did play bass on early stuff, and he would even play bass live during some performances on stuff when he wasn't actually playing on his synth or piano that he had on stage. He would play bass very seldomly. For those that don't know, bass is not the same as guitar. Yes, notes and some things are very similar. Yes, bass generally has 4 strings. A guitar generally has 6. There's similarities and there are differences. It's a whole different style learning. So the fact that he was able to learn guitar during a pandemic and then incorporate it, which I'm assuming is him playing on it. I didn't look on the personnel for the track.
Yeah, I didn't either.
So it could be him playing. If not, hey, let's assume it is because of this backstory, right? So immediately right into the funk guitar work of a style that was prominent about what I felt was like 10 years ago. All the hits 10 years ago had this sound. If you go back into pop music, this would have fit in like Daft Punk, what they were releasing, Pharrell. I'm trying to think of the other song. You know what I'm talking about? Like all the hits of like 2010 to 2012.
Robin Thicke, that kind of,
Yes, exactly that.
Yep.
So, like, that's the vibe I got from this. I'm like, is this song 10 years too late?
Yeah.
I don't know. But it fits with the style of the album. But how big of a hit would have been 10 years ago?
Sure.
So, definitely summer vibes to this one. The flow remains static, though, at this point of the album, with a definite chill sound and theme. I mean, we're 5 tracks in. This album is chill. We're establishing that now by this point. The real hook of the chorus is what drives this track. And lyrically, they seem to describe how the weeks drift by without inspiration. But it's the weekends where maybe they get excited and inspired. While Saturday is not like a love song, what I got from it and what I looked up on it, it's how the frontman paints a picture of love for his wife and how she kept him going during the pandemic. So it's not a direct like thank you, but like you've given me hope and inspiration kind of thing without directly spelling it out. So it's open for interpretation, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, for Saturday, like you were saying with kind of the love song, kind of reminds me of the Cure Friday, We're in Love, Friday I'm in Love. Obviously, but in this case it's Saturday. There is actually, as you mentioned, kind of a actual part where his wife is in the song, saying, "Are you tired? Do you want to go to sleep?"
Oh, I didn't know that was his wife.
Yeah, yep. And basically he said no, or he wants to watch Friends with her, and she said, if you're writing on a song, then go for it. So basically, yeah, just kind of letting him do his thing, doing his process. So yeah, very seemed like very COVID related lyrics as far as like losing my sense of time, to feel, weeks feel like days. So yeah, I like the towards the end of the song, they have kind of that record scratch type of feel where they cut out the music, just like they do in Ode to Sleep in Vessel. So I really like the beat. Like you said, another kind of funk leaning from the last song to this one. It does seem very like formatted, as far as the chorus. It seems like something that would be pretty radio friendly. Yeah, it didn't stand out a ton to me on the album, but it's catchy enough. And how many songs are there about different days of the week? It's just kind of another one. But as far as the style, the funk, I really enjoyed that. But it's definitely not super deep lyrically like some of the other songs that they've done before. Just kind of straightforward. Yeah,
immediately I'm like, oh, did they cover Fall Out Boy? Because they have a song called Saturday. I mean, who hasn't written, like you said, songs about days of the week? There are 8 days a week, right? The Beatles.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, not bad. What's our next one?
Next one we've got is Never Take It, 3 minutes and 32 seconds. So this is what I actually said sounds more like a normal 21 Pilots kind of song, as far as their, Vessel feel or even just from Blurry Face. Not so much Trench, just because, again, that was more of a kind of storytelling album. This one, it seems kind of slightly political about misinformation and how easy it is to kind of go down these spirals. And at moments, the song kind of reminds me of Cage the Elephant with some of their vocals. And then, as far as being scaled back and isolated, you're kind of creating an echo chamber of what you believe. And this is kind of speaking to that. So overall, I thought it was a great song for them. If you like kind of their old style and their stuff from their first couple albums, then I think you'll really like this song.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think this is the one track that I have probably the most information on. Okay. So for me, the vibes return of like mid-career Beatles on this one. That's the feel I got immediately. And then you mentioned Cage the Elephant, but as far as vocal styling, what I was hearing, U2. Very U2 style. At least that was what I was picking up. Listen to some U2 like early 90s and then some of their single work, and then listen to this track, Never Take It, track 6 on the album. You might hear it, you might not. That's, again, just what I'm picking up on it. A lot of filtered effects on this one, especially the drums. The filtered effects on the drums really drive the track. with a vintage guitar distortion, which is why I mentioned the Beatles, because they added enough distortion, but not like rock or metal distortion. It's just like a vintage sound. I don't know what preamp they're using on that, but they definitely have something applied to the guitar. The synth has almost an organ sound to it. Like I couldn't really pick out what they were using as the effect on the synth for it. And lyrically, he talks about learning the guitar, which again is what the singer did for this album. What I felt was, in short, the song could be taken as a critique about the intentional divisiveness and toxicity of modern media. Media corporations, I have a quote here from them. Media corporations profit off people's disagreements over politics, religion, sexuality, the 2020 pandemic. The media, profit from a great divide. The quote continues, information is just a currency and nothing more to the media. The media keeps the truth in quotations that are too short to tell the whole story, and that causes more cultural divisiveness. In the chorus, if you listen, it's a wise reminder to not believe what you see on TV and basically not take whatever brand of world image the media you consume is trying to push on you. If you're not educated, and I don't mean like you attended high school or college, I mean educated in the fact that you're doing research on something. The media is going to tell you, and this has been, if you want to talk about the toxicity of social media, specifically in the last 5 years or so, they've gotten really good at grabbing your attention off article titles and not actual citing or accurate information within the contents of the articles themselves. And people are really quick at sharing misinformation, which was a heavy topic of these last few years. They talk about that in this song, and like I could not relate and agree more with the toxicity, not of the city, System of a Down, but the toxicity of just media in general. Because I, on one hand, love it because it allows me to connect with people still, and it allows me to share content like this to more people. But on the other hand, I hate it because of the side effects from it, right? The negative aspects of it, just the people that you see, you're like, why did you share that? Why do you feel that way? But I thought I knew you. But I guess I don't. But I guess you're showing me. So it was, if anything, this is the track that I, related to, or that I fell into the most. So I end it with, don't take this sweet, short, tasty, and convenient opinions. Do the work and formulate your own beliefs. The bridge near the end is an example of not watching too much media during COVID for his own medical or mental health, which is probably a very wise decision for a lot of people to take a break. And I did see that from some people saying, hey, I'm going to depart for like 30 days and see how my mental health improves because y'all crazy on here right now. And I've been notorious for having tons of comments on some of my stances in the past. I've stepped away from sharing my opinions heavily because really at the end of the day, I'm not going to change somebody's mind. Why waste all that energy? Because all it does is have negative effects for friendships and various things. So I've reeled it in a little bit. So that was my mental take on this very topic. So he distracted himself to close out this track in a healthy way by learning to play the guitar. There's also a fun note that you brought up, that this song could also be reflective of culture within the city of Dima and the story of Trench. But for what I can see, there's not like actual proof of that. But from what you've shared, like, maybe this is, we're going to learn more on. But then again, I don't know. So.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense with the storyline that they're doing. It makes sense on multiple levels. And just as far as clearly you related to the song with your explanation of the lyrics and how it affected you and what it made you think of. But I think that can be said really about any sort of like, say, like even like an oppressive society or, something where you're getting bad information and, not checking it and just taking it as gospel. So Yeah,
Ain't that
great
the
song.
truth? Ain't that the truth? Preach, staple gun, preach. But it's true though. It's true. Let's continue on though. Did we kick back over to you? Because that was a really long diatribe there
No,
for me.
you can go for it.
Okay, I was going to take a drink of water, but I'll go. This one's shorter, I promise you. Mulberry Street, track 7 off the album here for those sticking with us. The piano kicks this one off with a classic happy flow to it. I could not put my finger on what this reminded me of. Not like Sesame Street. I know Mulberry Street, but like it was like a show tune almost of sorts. Like I could not put my finger on it. But the vocals carry the verse with a light break beat on drums with the piano melody behind it all. The hip-hop influence continues on this track with something you want to sing along with in the chorus. Lyrically, I get the vibes that it's okay to feel different emotions besides bliss. Common theme lyrically by them regarding the ups and downs of emotions. So this one thematically kind of deviates from the tone lyrically what they've been talking about. So I found it interesting too what they try to describe as far as Mulberry Street, which is actual place, by the way. I looked that up too. Maybe you have that in your notes, so I'll kick it over to you.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, for me, it kind of starts off sounding like a Billy Joel song with light drums and nice piano beat. But the immediate thing that I thought of was Supertramp's "Breakfast in America." So that's what stuck out to me. But not that it's the same at all, but just as far as that kind of repetitive beat and the piano that kind of drives throughout. It's kind of one where I was waiting for it to build up or to, get faster or slower in some spots, and it just kind of continues on with that same beat. So like you said, as far as Mulberry Street being an actual place, Billy Joel wrote a song called Big Man on Mulberry Street. So it's kind of making a reference to that, and it kind of, like you said, feels out of place for the rest of the album as far as lyrically. Kind of seems like, he feels out of place on Mulberry Street, and he's trying to get through. Definitely one of the more laid back songs on the album, and kind of most simplistic is kind of what I've got for it. So it's a super catchy beat that is great. But for me, it was very out of place and wasn't one of the top ones for me.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a fine track. It was worthy of being on the album. Shout out to Storm real quick for the sub. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. We appreciate you. Glad to have you here with us tonight. Hopefully you've had a chance to check out 21 Pilots' latest album, Scaled and Icy. If not, give it a listen and then go back and listen to this podcast too, see if you agree, disagree, and then, of course, let us know. But again, thank you so much for the sub. Quick shout out too, for those that don't know, if you guys have Amazon Prime, you get a free Twitch Prime sub every month for a channel. We'd love to have you use it with us. If not, that's okay, but it's free, so why not? It helps us out, and it gives you some awesome emotes that you can use here and other channels across Twitch. So cool perk, and we've added just a bunch of new ones too recently. Check it out. And Storm, you have them now since you subbed, so thank you again. Continuing on. You want to keep going?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
So next one we have is Formidable at 2 minutes 55 seconds. So this one kind of starts off with a kick drum and snare, and kind of had some Beach Boys type of layered ooh wah wahs in the background. And so I love the lyrics of the song and the kind of the honesty he's putting into it. Basically, it says you should know. He kind of starts to explain his flaws and his good qualities that can be seen as flaws. Overall, I thought it was just kind of a nice love song for, his wife. It was kind of different, again, for 21 Pilots, but overall, I thought it was a really good song. Wasn't too much for me to speak on. It was just, again, just very strange for them, but I'm enjoying it, so...
So this is one I did a little bit of looking up too, because I wasn't certain or convinced that it was for his wife.
Okay.
Just with how he spoke on certain things.
Yeah.
And I'll give my reasoning for it. Cody King DNA, he changed. Is this a different handle or did you change your name, my friend? 1-bit donation. Hip hip hooray. Thank you for that. So Formidable track 8. Guitar riff opens up this one with an acoustic in the background for rhythm. Unique sound for them here on this one. As you mentioned, like Beach Boys, that kind of style. And I know you're a big fan, of Beach Boys, so I could see where you kind of got that immediately. Very chill and hippie inspired for this one. I said it was also possibly inspired by the Beatles. The only downfall of this track I described it as samesies. Is that a good way to describe? I don't know. Samesies throughout of it, especially with it being short and under 3 minutes. Immediately, lyrically, I understood it as being a love song, talking about devotion and just being there for someone. But being concerned that it might be boring, which they mentioned. So, quote, Formidable is a humbling, heartfelt letter from Tyler, the singer, to who is presumed, from what I was reading on it, is to be for Josh, the drummer. So, if you didn't know that, and Cody, I'm going to turn off the sounds on that. You're killing me. Who's spamming 1-bit donations? 1-bit donation, hip hip hooray. Thank you for that. So from there, it's presumed to be Josh, who is the now current drummer of 21 Pilots. So the singer views the two of them as halves to a whole band, despite Josh only playing drums while Tyler does everything else. An example, writing the music, lyrics, singing lead vocals, playing other instruments. While he physically does more in terms of the band, the singer loves and respects the drummer on a much more personal level, understanding that while he may do the bulk of the work for the band, it would not work without the personal and emotional support that the drummer has given him throughout their friendship. For this reason, Tyler, the singer, gives Josh, the drummer, equal credit as a member of the band, even though Josh, the drummer, thinks he just plays the drums. So, and I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's just some information I looked up that is not quoted per se, but could
makes
be.
Sense. I mean, with the title Formidable, basically just talking about how he thinks this person that he's talking about is very formidable. It makes sense. It's not really a love word that you would use,
right? And that's what was said was jarring, because I thought that at first too. I'm like, would you ever find your partner formidable?
Right.
Like, ooh, I don't know. Why are you together then? Like, maybe because then I was like, maybe he's just not confident in the relationship and not feeling that he holds up his part, even though the wife or the significant other overlooks that, So I'm like, okay, I could see that, but just the way it's spoken, I was like, there's got to be more in this, and that's what led me down, some lyrical rabbit hole websites with opinions on this, and then I picked apart and kind of put together the opinions into that quote there. So I found it interesting. Cody said he broke it. How many did you spam, Cody? He was just spamming 1-bit donations. So I just muted it for a second, Cody. Don't feel bad. I just didn't want ding, ding when I was trying to describe that particular sequence. So, but yeah, do you want to take the next one, or you want me to continue on? Mine's
go.
Okay, it's short. So, Bounce Man, number 9. Immediately when I have the song called Bounce, I think of The Cab, Bounce, Bounce, Baby. Do you remember that? Did you ever listen to The Cab?
I did not ever get into The Cab.
Oh, man. That's a bit surprising, to be honest. We could talk about that another day. I'm a bit surprised. But Bounce Man, track 9. Vocal chorus to open the track and establish the feeling. Very chill and sing-along. Feels like one of those party tracks is how I described it, or where people just sit around and sing a song together. I feel like this album is sponsored. This is a quote from myself. I'm laughing at my own quote, mind you. I feel like this album is sponsored by Summer Shandy. Like this track in particular. But really, lyrically, the song is assumed to be about Ned, who made his debut in the Chlorine music video and later appeared in the music video for The Hype. With your lore that you looked up, is that accurate?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, the crazy thing with them is they've got so many singles that with each of these singles, they're putting out music videos. So if you're to go back and watch all of their music videos to find a running storyline, I mean, it's very well possible. It wouldn't surprise me. I know, especially with some of the Trench music videos, that's when they really got into the storytelling stuff. So that seems to be more with, talking about the bishops and the blurry face and, being tracked down and what different colors mean. That's when it starts to get really deep with their music videos and their content and their kind of mythology with everything that's actually happening to them. So possibly I don't have any information on that, though.
Yeah, I just didn't know from your investigation what you'd found and what you didn't. So, interesting track. I mean, what were your actual thoughts on the song, though?
Yeah, it's a weird one. Like you said, it's like very sing-along. It starts kind of with a ukulele that continues throughout, which they've done. They've used ukulele before with House of Gold and some other tracks. So I wasn't totally surprised to hear the ukulele, but to hear that's kind of the main driving sound throughout was kind of different. Feels like he's kind of owning that reggae feel. I was getting a lot of reggae and funk type of feel to a lot of these songs on the album, which again is very different for them, very pop, and which they've done with some of the blurry face stuff. But overall, it was just definitely a different take, especially coming from Formidable into this. It was just kind of a strange transition. Like you said, very, very catchy chorus. Just kind of seems like, hey, I'm here for you for support if you're on hard times. Even down to the accents on the words that he uses, he sings almost in a kind of a reggae tone. Here on some of the other songs. But yeah, it sounds like, honestly, just a song that you would sing with friends, around like a bonfire. That's just kind of what I thought, especially with the way it starts off. It starts off with a very kind of hip hop pop type of catchiness even before the song starts. It starts kind of with the chorus just lightly in the background leading into the kind of ukulele and everything. So yeah, it's definitely a bizarre one for me. But again, I can't help but sing along to it and see how it would have that catchiness or kind of staying power.
Yeah, they definitely have the hints of that blurry face reggae stuff, which I'd say probably a third of that blurry face album was very heavy into the reggae styling. I'm speaking for Andrea here. She was kind of hesitant to get into that particular album because of that sound, like Lane Boy. For example, things like that. Immediately at first, it's like, what are they doing here? This is okay. But then it grows on you. So my curiosity, this album's been out for at this point just about a week and a half, right? I've listened to it in its entirety 3.5 times at this point, maybe 4. Not as much as some of the other ones that we've reviewed, but this is one that is going to get put in my rotation of stuff because as a whole, I think I could listen, and I'll give that breakdown too in the final review. But yeah, the reggae stuff definitely still persistent in their content. And maybe they're really into reggae. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it shows they're good at it. So, shall we continue next track?
Yeah, No Chances.
All right, you want me to go?
Go for it.
All right, so track 10, No Chances. I don't have a lot for this one, I'm sorry. But heavy hip-hop flow for this track. The heaviest sound so far for the album. The chorus of singers with a dark sound and style somewhat contrasts the album so far. Maybe it's something of an exit to the story being told. Maybe it's related to the bishops or, various things like that you talked about with the lore. I couldn't find a lot on this. Maybe you did, but that's really, I didn't know really how to sum up this song. it's so different from the rest of the album, but it's not bad, but it's just, it's weird. It's I don't know how
Yeah.
to.
No, I agree. I mean, it kind of gives me the first, I guess, major album vibes off the bat as far as being different with sound on this song. It kind of starts off with almost like alarms blaring, like a warning, like get out, kind of like gives you this kind of uneasy feeling right off the beginning, right out the gate, and then it has kind of like a heavy EDM feel right away. So it says, "We come for you, no chances." It's got deep voices chanting, kind of setting a darker tone, kind of transitioning out of that. Everything's great. Come to my house, man. We can bounce, man. And then all of a sudden, now we're like, okay, time to get out of here. So again, with kind of some of the lore that's going on, it feels like they're not in a good place. The stuff leading up to this could have been the propaganda, kind of them putting out some positive stuff, even though they're not really feeling that. So yeah, this one was one of the most interesting once I learned all of the backstory and everything that was going on. It's not a whole lot of information out there about it, but it's definitely the most bizarre sound on the album from the rest, leading into this. It's a good kind of transition to close out the album going into the final track. I felt like it would have been good to have right after Never Take It from the album. I felt like this would have been a good one to have off of that. But again, with you, like you said, listening to albums from front to back in the same way, and knowing what I know about this duo and how they're very intentional about how they put songs in an album, I want to listen to it in the order that they present it, because I believe they're trying to tell some sort of story. But again, I don't have the time to learn all of that crazy backstory, so I just watched a couple videos and presented what I've got from that. But yeah, it's definitely, this song is the transition to the end of the album, saying things are going bad, and get prepared for this last track.
Yeah, and I mean, it's taken him years and well thought out planning to establish these stories and backstories and lore. You're not going to learn it over the course of just figuring out what we want to talk about for this album review. It's going to take some time and then obviously inspiration to learn that, but I definitely feel it's there for myself. I can't speak for you, but I feel you've piqued my intrigue on this now, and I have is another level for this band of learning and admiring. So it's really neat.
Even down to the content that they put out as far as marketing materials. If you look at some of the materials they put out for this album, it's all the initial like photos and press that was done for this album was done through that demo website, and people just basically copied it and put it out there on the internet for people to use. So again, if you don't know that, you wouldn't know that they're kind of trapped with this group in this kind of demo society. So it's really, I mean, there are just layers and layers of, this marketing material looks like this Sega ad from the 90s. Their marketing material looks like a Macintosh when they released that in the 80s. And it's interesting. So if you got some time and you're a huge fan of them, definitely check it out, because it'll get you thinking, at least. There definitely seem to be some gaps within the storyline, like there are with a lot of good stories, but it's definitely worth checking into if it piques your interest.
Definitely. So, shall we close out the album with the final track here?
Let's do it. So we got Redecorate. 4 minutes and 5 seconds. So this is the longest track from the album, and it mentions a lot of the stuff that happens in the album throughout the song. It's definitely a very somber song. It's a very powerful song. The lyrics seem pretty clear, kind of about suicidal thoughts and if you should keep. And it comes from a story that basically the lead singer had heard of somebody whose family member had passed, and they were young, and they were thinking, should we keep their room the same, or should we redecorate? The song is called Redecorate. So it's very thought-provoking, and basically saying, I want to just let me clean up my room if this is what's going to happen, or, kind of giving it second thought. And it's really a really deep song lyrically, and kind of a sad way to close out the album. But I think one of the best songs on the album lyrically, and as far as, making people think about the situation if they were to be in it.
Yeah, I agree. So when placing an album, and this was one of my favorite things when I would not only make mixtapes or mix CDs, but when I was in a band myself, the placement of where songs was important. In a lot of bands, I feel, do place things specifically for reasons. Some just throw things on there, I feel. Maybe I'm wrong, but specifically them, they have placement. And the artists so far that we've reviewed have specific placement. It is incredibly important to have a very strong and very important intro or intro track to the album, but it is almost equally, if not more important, to have a great ending to an album. Instead of just like, and here's other stuff we did to close out, or here's the acoustic version of the single, Like,
yeah.
The outro here is definitely, as you described, a digression of everything we've listened to. So we're digesting the experience at this point with the chill feel. Hip hop flow vocally with the beat very faint and produced in the background. Synth heavy on this track, lots of effects on the vocals to add depth and character. Lyrically tells the story of three people and the thoughts that go through their heads before they die as they worry about the impact this will have on their families. These worries are symbolized by the future purpose of their bedrooms, which redecorate, as the characters will not be using them anymore, and they feel the urge to tie up loose ends before they leave, something that can be applied to both personal belongings and emotional unfinished business. So yeah, very deep song lyrically, and they nail it musically with the emotion to give the feel of it, and it's a great digression of the story of this album, that was told here for their latest work. So really with that, at this point, we can dive into our own digressions and our final thoughts and review. With that, would you like to go first, or would you like me to?
You can go ahead.
Perfect. We gave predictions of each other, both 8s, I believe.
Yep.
All right. So 21 Pilots is a band that you have to break things down beyond just a sound. They are a band that continues to reinvent themselves and not only stay relevant, but also introduce new things into the art of music. They are a band definitely inspired by artists before them, and it shows in Scaled and Icy. Musically, a callback to the 60s, 70s, and 80s with bands like the Beatles and U2, as I mentioned in the song breakdowns. To really enjoy their work, and specifically this new album, beyond just a chill experience, you gotta read and break down what the lyrics can mean. The singer speaks often in metaphors and personal experiences, but also telling stories of possible fictional character and aliases throughout each of their albums. To me, the downfall of this album is the consistent tone and chill sounds throughout its entirety. It is a pleasant sound and experience, but musically I wish the style had more of a variety, but we can get that with their 6th album catalog if we're wanting variety of their actual discography. Lyrically, this album is very strong with a narrative on things that we can all, potentially relate to coming out of this pandemic. Overall, this is a safe album to put on for the family, and definitely something to have on in the background this summer, or even something to put on while driving somewhere. I give it a 7 out of 10.
All right.
And really, it's because I wanted more variety. If it was maybe a couple of tracks longer, with a couple more styles mixed in, it probably would have gotten, an 8 out of me.
All right. Yeah, I definitely should have gone first with your with your notes there for you to close it out. No, honestly, so this album definitely was a different take on their music from what they've done with their previous albums. So Overall, I would say I really enjoyed this, even though it's definitely more of a pop type of feel, and but also I think that they're taking some stabs at doing things differently. It's sometimes it is good to get away from that emo kind of music or darker lyrics that they've got. And as far as their band growth, it's also positive to see that maybe the lead singer of the band is getting out of this darker place now that he's got a wife and he's got a kid, and maybe started to see things more positively, and maybe this is what we can come to expect from them in the future, rather than some of the darker stuff they've put out there before. With the way that the album closes out, it seems like they're not fully invested in doing this more poppy, upbeat sound, but I think there are more hits than there are misses from this album. Great songs that you can sing along to, but also just creatively some really cool stuff going on. So for me, I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Nailed it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was fun. I'm glad that we listened to this. Honestly, I would have anyways. So none of this seems like work. Don't get it like twisted that I think any of this is actual work. I love doing this stuff. But it wasn't. You didn't have to bend my arm backwards and say this is the pick, even though this was my pick. It's not one of those. I'm like, this is gonna be tough to get through, and to be pleasant about it. I'm glad I did, even with the 7. Like it's a pleasant experience. Well,
but even based off of your last experience, if you left off with Trench and you weren't feeling it, I can see why you'd be worried going in. So
yeah, I had definite reservations, and not that the last album was bad. It just didn't hook me. No other way to describe that. But as far as their resume of work, I'm gonna go back and listen to again and again, just because I am a big fan of their stuff. But more so now because I want to pick up those little things that I'm now aware of that I did not have any idea that existed before. So it's going to be like a brand new listen, trying to break down and get an understanding of things on a meta level, So that's very fun and exciting.
Yeah, I would definitely look into the materials and the YouTube videos first. Otherwise, you're not going to piece anything together based on, you can refer to this video, but it's not going to give you the in-depth explanation of what each of these clues was putting together as far as their overall story. You can watch for it in the music videos, like Jumpsuit, that refers to like an actual like jumpsuit that they may have been in because they were prisoners. Nico and the Niners. Nico is supposed to be one of the name of the bishops that's controlling one of the areas that they're in. So, there's a whole lot if you actually look into it and want to do that deep dive. Then go for it and feel free to enlighten us. But I know I'm not taking the time to go that deep. But overall, I really enjoyed their catalog. I went back and listened to the self-titled album, and it's a little bit weird. It's not a huge fan of it. They've got maybe 2 or 3 songs I like off their original one in 2009, but Vessel's definitely their peak for me.
Yeah, you could hear the style and the early work by them in those first 2 albums before Vessel. Like it was there, but there was a component missing, and I truly feel it was the chemistry that he has with the now drummer. Like something clicked, and the creativity just went from there. So
yeah,
and I mean it shows in their work ever since, and it continues. Even though Trench was not like my favorite, that doesn't mean it's a bad album. It's just not what I was drawn towards.
And it was nowhere near as commercially successful as Blurry Face. But again, they got a lot more into the storytelling stuff, and I feel like with this album and what you might kind of see that resurgence of them hitting the radio more often because of the style of a lot of these songs. So I think we get into that overplayed zone.
That's quite possible, which is worrisome. But at the same time, I don't find myself these days listening to the radio, so it might not affect me, especially as you mentioned, Spotify Premium now. So who knows? But with that, we are on Spotify. This podcast can be found there, can be found on Google, can be found on Apple, as well as other leading podcast platforms. So if you're watching this live and you haven't subscribed to us free on any of those, please do. It automatically downloads to your device if you turn that on. that'd be great because it gives us a play then, whether or not you listen to it, I think. I don't know, though. It counts as a download. But we'd love, obviously, to play and listen and then give us feedback on our content. Give us a review. Let us know what you think. We have other episodes coming soon. Our next one that we have penciled in, I believe it's in pen now, Modest Mouse. We going forward with that? Okay. So Modest Mouse is going to be our next one towards the end of June. We're going to have a week like bump back this month. So instead of 3 weeks from now, I think it's 4 weeks. Just because there is a E3 this month. And on Tuesday, one of the Tuesdays, we're going to be talking about that. So it shifts things back a week after that. So we'll figure out schedules. If for some reason we have to move things around, we'll let you know. But that is coming. And then obviously in rotation, we also have the dosage coming next Tuesday, which is the year 2002 in video games. Cody and I are going to be breaking down our top 10 favorite games of the year 2002. A lot of games came out that year. I haven't even begun my list yet. I am regretting taking on this challenge. But I'm anxious because I can't wait. I love ranking things, so this is going to be fun. Beyond that, we also have, if you like wrestling, the NOW podcast with Cody and Trevor. That is normally on Sundays unless there's a pay-per-view. Then they move it to Monday nights like they did last night. You can check that out on the podcast platforms as well. Same location, Dose of Nerd Acumen, find it there. So anything that we do in podcast form gets archived and placed on there. Of course, you can also find these video episodes on YouTube. Follow us there. It's free. Like, comment, subscribe. Click that little bell to get notified of when we upload new content. And then you can catch us almost every night on twitch.tv/Dose of Nerd Acumen. We're doing something, whether it's video games, podcasts, or just hanging out. We have a lot of content. And I'm hoping before Halo Infinite comes out, myself, Justin here, and maybe a couple others, is it up to 4 that can do campaign together?
I believe so.
I want to do Lasso. You know what a Lasso is, right?
Just a run through.
Well, Legendary All Skulls On.
Oh, God.
I would love to try it, and it could be possible with 4 people. I've never tried this. So.
Yeah, ammo might be an issue.
Yeah. It'd be for good content if you want to see a bunch of people get frustrated.
Frustration.
So,
that's the way to do it.
Be on the lookout for that. Anything that you want to share that's exciting going on for you right now?
For me, Disney in a couple days, man.
Oh, that's right. Send us pictures. Let us know you guys are having fun.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I bet. You get to get out of here for a while.
Saturday.
Are you packed and ready yet?
Yeah, we're mostly packed. We're doing Universal and 5 days at Disney parks, so it'll be a great time. Never been.
I might have to. Are you going to Universal?
Yep.
The day you go there, can you reach out to me if you go to the visitor center for Jurassic Park?
Yeah, I can take a look.
I might have to Venmo you if you use Venmo.
Yep.
Okay.
Nope.
Because I want some swag. Because I didn't get Jurassic Park stuff when I went last time because I didn't have money back then. So, not that I have money now, but a little bit different situation than it was back then.
You went to Universal and didn't have money. That's never a good plan.
It's a long story, and it bore the heck out of our listeners. Storm 100-bit donation. Hip hip hooray. Thank you for that. We had just enough, basically. That's the short story. We had basically enough to get by for meals and go to the parks. It was 6 months right before our wedding. So, as you know, budgets are thin. So, but yeah, that'll be exciting. We'll talk and shoot me a message the day you go there. So that's gonna be exciting. As for us, like I said, we just have normal content. I want to do this if they're still here. So SO order of the so there we go. So shout out to our raider tonight, Order of the Zod. Check them out. They are looking like they're playing, or they were playing 2K19. So they rated us. Check them out. Give them a follow. Show some love back. And of course, they dropped some donations as well tonight. So shout out there. Thank you so much for that. But with that, that's really all I have for the show. I want to thank you again for this episode. In a few more weeks, Modest Mouse, and then we're going to turn it to the community. You guys, it's in the hands of you guys in July what you guys want us to review. One lucky person from a top bit donator in the top 5 will pick that option, and you'll get to review, or will get to review, a music album of your choice. And even if you want to guest on it too. The only thing that it's not required, but we have a preference, have it be in this year, something new. You can pick any album, of course, if you really want to, but we'd prefer new music if we had a preference. But again, this is your prize. So we'll talk to the winner at the end of June, and we'll see what they want. Lotus is here. What's up, Lotus? Doing good. Body's hurting from the gym. There you go, Justin. You have a gym buddy. I don't do that stuff. Lotus says the new music sounds intriguing. Yeah, Lotus, give us this episode a listen back. We are just wrapping up now, and let us know what you think in the comments. But again, thank you, Justin. Yep. Thank you, listeners. It's been a pleasure doing this review, and until next time, take care, everybody. Oh my God! What the